Aloha, this is Jamie with Shanti and a few quick announcements. Most of you know November 7th, nighttime, like after midnight, early morning, November 8th in the United States, we will be experiencing a lunar eclipse, which is happening in the sign of Aries, per Vedic astrology, not Western, with Rahu and shadow moons of Saturn. The reason why we always make sure to post essence recommendations, I started doing that after I took several trips to India where I studied meditation, and my teacher there was all over the eclipses, how these are times of huge transformation and like energetic shifts on the planet. How you handle your energy during that time is very important, and these are ultimately like sacred times to go within. Also, you know, the energy can be a little bit unstable because the mind can be unstable. Even if you feel like you're really stable and grounded and good, sometimes the people around you might not be. Especially with this eclipse, which is happening in the sign of Aries, the first sign of the zodiac, so it's a little more impulsive. Decision making might tend towards being a little more rash. And it's also taking place with Rahu, which is symbolically the head. It can really have effects on your mind. One good thing about lunar eclipses versus solar eclipses is that usually by the time you're at the lunar eclipse, whatever it is that was like dark and hidden and in the shadows lurking has already revealed itself. So it usually happens by the time of the lunar eclipse, so you know what you're dealing with. It is still a time where things come out of the shadows, but it tends to be a little bit more quickly than during a solar eclipse. And in general, depending on how it's affecting like your particular chart and sign and energy and all that, it's better if you can just stay in and meditate. But if you can't do that, we always recommend just try to do more meditative activities, or if you're working, if you are having to go about your life as normal, then just trying to do so in a way your drishti is still more inwardly focused, like repeating a mantra. Just repeating something inwardly and lining it up with your breath can be a really good way to work with things. So of course we also have essences where go a little bit deeper with the energy without having to be quite as engaged. So if you can nurture your energy with the essences, you know, because it's still all about clearing out like the stuff that's in the shadows. Okay, so psycho-spiritually, eclipses relate to shadows, and that's what a lunar eclipse is. It's, you know, it's the shadow of the earth on the moon that's obscuring the light, and it's, you know, the moon reflects the light of the sun, and so that's being blocked. Symbolically, all life is being temporarily stopped, and then after the eclipse there's a rebirth, there's a renewal, a regeneration. When you're bringing in an energy shift, you want to try to hold the space for it as much as possible, because that can have a downstream effect on how well you integrate and are able to process moving forward. But if you are having those moments where you feel like a little directionless or uncertain, or because of what's happening financially and all the uncertainty around you, that you're starting to become worried about things, please be aware that there are so many things affecting the energy right now, from Venus to Mars being retrograde in Gemini, and then going retrograde in Taurus, where it's going to stay, and you know, through early next year, affecting finances and global markets, and the eclipse itself, which, you know, creates a kind of an undertone of fear or uncertainty or worry, and tends to bring up the like darker side of our natures collectively, and also bring new information in that we then have to process and deal with, as well as Saturn, which is forming what's called like a T-square with both where the solar eclipse was 2 weeks ago and the lunar eclipse is taking place. So Saturn's like running this whole process, and Saturn is taking its final stroll through Capricorn, which is difficult, which is a difficult place, because it's basically like everything that, all the lessons from the last 2 years in this final 6 months, as you know, where Capricorn is taking its final stroll through, are coming back. So it's like anything you haven't fully learned is coming full circle for you to complete the lessons. And so it can feel really, really intense, especially depending on what it's doing in your chart. And then on top of that, it's directing the energy of these eclipses. So there's just a lot going on. But also, again, just because even if you think you're thinking great and all that, sometimes you're not thinking that great during an eclipse. We have below in the blog that we're linking some recommendations for any eclipse, and of course for this particular eclipse I am suggesting working with Mars because that is our essence for all things Mars. This eclipse is happening in the sign of Aries. Mercury, which has been conjunct with K2. Mercury, which is opposing the eclipse, is having an effect on it, and Mars has been in the sign of Mercury and it's in retrograde there until the 15th, and then it's going to move back into Taurus and can wreak havoc on communication systems, on your plans moving forward, on relationships, technology. It can just cause things to kind of go askew. Now remember though, it's just an energy to be aware of. So if you're aware of it, you probably won't be as vulnerable to it, but that doesn't mean that the people around you or society in general isn't. It's like the play of the lunar eclipse, and here's all the energies happening, and you're just like, you know, a character in that movie acting it out. If you know what's going on, then you can make better choices, and you can be aware that, okay, they're all under the spell of this eclipse, but I know what the energy is bringing in, so I'm just going to bide my time. And because Mars is like the great initiator, right, the energy that's needed to start things, to birth new things, and this eclipse is taking place in the sign of Mars in Aries, Nakshatra Bharani, which is all about giving birth. It's literally symbolized by the female reproductive system. And one of the interesting things about Bharani Nakshatra is it deals a lot with not just the conception and the birth, but also bearing the consequence of whatever you've created. So in a way you could say this lunar eclipse is ripe with creative energy, right? Creativity. You're bringing forth, it's about bringing forth something new, even though it may appear that some of the planets are not supporting it. So K2 is conjunct 2 planets at the beginning of this month, and K2 always tends to cut things off. It's directly opposing what's going on with this eclipse. So Venus has gone into the sign of Scorpio, which is also ruled by Mars, and what's called a Parivartana, a very powerful yoga with Mars is retrograde in Taurus right now. So they're kind of playing off of each other. And also, so Venus is also another essence that I would recommend working with. Venus has been combust. So when Venus is combust, especially if your rising sign or moon sign or even sun sign in Vedic astrology, or if you have a lot of planets in the sign of Libra, Taurus, or Pisces where Venus is exalted, or in one of the nakshatras related to the Venetian planets such as Bharani, which is where the eclipse is, right? Then you're going to want to be a little bit more aware that you may be more affected by this. Alternatively, it could be an incredibly, look at Hoku just got a haircut today. It can be an incredibly lucrative time too from a creative sense, just depending on how it's all playing out for you individually. Things always come in like waves, peaks and valleys, so anything that goes up comes down. And as far as essences go and resources, I just wanted to offer you 2. One was the list of essences attached below. Me personally, I always like to work with Mahina because it's very nurturing and soothing. It's very good for meditation. It's very balancing. It's very good for stimulating creativity and you know, helping you get in touch with your feminine side, which is very much connected to the moon. I like to work with the third eye chakra essence. Several of the orchid sprays can also be good. I like the dendrobium orchid because that's all about, you know, opening blockages along the spine. It supports meditation. Sometimes I like to go into some of the deeper ones like the Alessio Quartz Master. Like if you're feeling like there's just so much coming at you and you've got to keep like shifting and changing and transitioning in order to get through, then that's a really good one. You can work with Pele or lava. And then of course things like violet white, which are good for spiritual practice, enlightening and release it. Transformation is very soft, okay, so it's very good at taking whatever's there and help like bringing it to its next highest energy level so that it can transform. So it's very soft, okay. So these are just some suggestions. Moonstone Master is very good. We have some earlier blogs on that. topaz, immunities, anything to strengthen your field. And again, it's not really just the eclipse, it's integrating the energy of everything going on associated with this. So if you are someone that's being more strongly affected or impacted, if you're able to look at a map, like a Google map, and you know what's coming, then you have tools. It's like, okay, well, I'm just going to turn on Siri here and she's going to tell me where to turn. And that's why we tell you, okay, eclipse, use these essences, full moon, new moon, or whatever. It's not to make you feel like you're being controlled or by these things, but to help you know, like, this is the energy that the masses are responding to right now, and we're all interconnected. So if this, the second resource that I wanted to direct you guys to is that we are having a vibrational essence therapy class. This is a wonderful opportunity if you need a little clearing, a little balancing, a little healing. If you're curious, come to that class. It's really fun. It's a really supportive group. You have your privacy. It's via Zoom. If you join the extension, then you'll get a chance if you have specific questions or want me to look at something similar. And I always say you can get a lot of the same benefits as you can in a one-on-one. So anyway, that's all. Lunar eclipse. Take care. Thank you so much. Don't forget to like and subscribe and pound that notification button to receive updates whenever we load a new video. Thank you.